Hey, welcome to the week's penultimate presentation of CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azus with 10 minutes of commercial-free headlines. We're starting with news concerning Saudi Arabia, a Middle Eastern country that's the world's 13th largest nation in area and its biggest exporter of oil. Saudi Arabia is a monarchy. King Abdullah, who's led the nation since 2005, died last week, and President Obama recently traveled there to pay his respects and visit Saudi Arabia's new leader, King Salman. Saudi Arabia is an ally of the U.S. in fighting terrorism, but it has a bad record on human rights. A blogger who spoke out against the Saudi government was recently whipped 1,000 times and imprisoned for 20 years. The nation doesn't allow women to drive, made this a politically challenging trip for President Obama.
President Obama's stop in Saudi Arabia was brief, but spoke volumes about U.S. relations with this key Mideast ally. After cutting short his trip to India following the death of Saudi King Abdullah, the president and the newly crowned monarch in Riyadh were all smiles when Mr. Obama praised King Salman's palace. Beautiful. The response was, now that you're here, it's even more beautiful. But the president declined to criticize the kingdom for the beating of a Saudi blogger who was punished for scrutinizing his country's religious police.
Will you speak about the blogger to the Saudis?
I think on this visit, obviously, a lot of this is just paying respects to King Abdullah.
CNN's Fareed Zakaria asked the president what he would say to Americans appalled by Saudi Arabia's human rights record.
Well, what we'd say to them is that it is important for us to take into account existing relationships, the existing alignments within a very complicated Middle East, to recognize that we have strategic interests in common with Saudi Arabia.
Common interests like ISIS, Yemen, where the U.S. is fighting al-Qaeda, and Saudi Arabia's main rival, Iran. A senior Saudi official brushed off White House assurances that Iran is not in charge of the Houthi rebels in Yemen, saying if the Houthis are not controlled by Iran, then who is giving them guns and money? To us, that is control. The Saudi trip is something of an optics do-over after the White House failed to have a high-profile presence following the terror attacks in Paris. By contrast, the president's Saudi delegation was a Washington who's who, from Secretary of State John Kerry, Senator John McCain, and CIA Director John Brennan, to former Secretaries of State James Baker and Condoleezza Rice. Top White House aides complain that's an unfair comparison.
You have I think a period of time where different leaders are able to pass through Saudi Arabia to pay their respects and to meet the new king. So there is a difference.
We cannot rewrite history, but we can write history. The words of a judge yesterday in overturning the convictions and sentences of the Friendship Nine. It was a group of African-American protesters who were students at Friendship College in Rock Hill, South Carolina. On January 31st, 1961, they sat at a lunch counter that was designated for whites only. They were immediately arrested. Their penalty, a choice: pay a $100 fine or accept 30 days of hard labor. They chose the labor and took a seat in history. 8 of the protesters are still alive. 7 were at yesterday's hearing. The judge was the nephew of the judge who originally sentenced the men. There was a standing ovation when he officially vacated their convictions.
We were not looking for any hero worship. We were simply 10 students who was tired of the status quo, tired of being treated like second-class citizens, tired of being spat on, kicked, called the N-word, drinking out of colored water fountain. We got tired of that.
Time for the shout-out. Worldwide, there are about 3,500 species of what animal? If you think you know it, shout it out. Is it mosquitoes, cats, horses, or sea urchins? You've got 3 seconds. Go. Of these animals, there are more different species of mosquitoes than the others combined. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
All right, the problem: mosquitoes. The Florida Keys have them. One solution: insecticides. They've been sprayed for many years across the Keys, keeping the bugs at bay. But there's one species of mosquito that's built up a resistance to many of the pesticides, and that species can carry dangerous diseases like dengue and yellow fever. So another proposed solution, mutant mosquitoes. A British company has found a way to genetically modify mosquitoes to kill their offspring. It wants to release millions of them into the Keys to ultimately kill off the dengue-carrying mosquito species. It says no human will be bitten by a genetically modified mosquito because it'll only release male mosquitoes, which don't bite. But some critics think that biting females could somehow get into the genetically modified population. What then? Also, they question the need for the experiment. Dengue fever isn't a major health threat in the Florida Keys. Almost 140,000 people have signed a petition to keep this from happening. The FDA would have to approve it. Another animal story today involves hundreds of birds. They're washing ashore, injured or dead, in San Francisco Bay. And saving lives is keeping the nonprofit group International Bird Rescue busy. It says the cost is running $9,500 a day. That's coming from donations. And while officials don't know what caused the problem, some rescue solutions are working.
The mystery started when people started seeing dead birds. We're on the eastern shoreline of San Francisco Bay, and this is where the birds began washing up. They looked like they were covered in oil, but it wasn't. It's some kind of mysterious goo. And we're not talking about just a few birds that have died. The death toll is now at more than 200. The problem is the substance gets into the bird's feathers, causing hypothermia.
Leave them right in here, yeah. Okay.
This really has the look and feel of a trauma center in a major hospital. You have all of these people working that are taking care of the patients, except in this instance, the patients are birds.
Lauren and Patrick here are just two of the many volunteers who are here hours on end trying to get these birds clean.
So it's stressful on the bird to be handled, for sure. So, we try and make the wash go as quickly as possible.
Scientists have ruled out oil as the harmful substance, but it's just as dangerous.
This guy has big clumps.
It has the consistency of glue that sticks to the bird's feathers. Dawn dishwashing detergent is used to help remove the gunk, while a lab tries to figure out exactly what it is.
It looks almost like rubber cement. It's tacky on the bird's feathers. It doesn't want to come off on our gloves. But we are having some very good results with the current protocols of washing, and we are able to clean these birds.
If the birds make it outside and get into one of these miniature pools, it means that they're doing well. This is where they're observed for a few days before they're finally released back into the wild. About 250 birds so far have been treated here. The worst may be over. But until scientists can figure out where that goo came from, there's still a concern more of these helpless animals could be found.
From the West Coast to the East Coast, we're trekking cross-country on today's Roll Call. Mohawk High School is in the community of Marcola, Oregon. It's where the Indians are watching today. DeBeck Undivided High School is in the town of DeBeck, Colorado. The Dragons are online there. And in the Floridian city of Plantation, we're all about the Panthers. Hello to Seminole Middle School. It's a sight you never see in central London or in any other city for that matter, and this could end really badly if it were real. Fortunately, it's not. It's an 8-foot-tall puppet with real humans inside who are still living. It's part of a publicity stunt for a British TV drama. It took 8 weeks, more than 60 different types of material, and a lot of study for the puppeteers to master the movements of a polar bear. The sight of that would be very scary at first. It'd give anyone pause. We're sure it got everything from a roaring reception to a frosty response. There's no doubt that bear's polarizing. We're bearing back your way with more CNN Student News tomorrow.